Formula Europa, formerly known as Formula Opel Lotus, and Formula Opel returns to RPM in 2000 with a big revival and interest in Ireland's premier racing class.
It's a formula that needs to stay in Ireland. It wings and slicks. Young guys who want to make a career from motorsport need to learn how to drive wings and slicks, and that's why we need to hold on to it.
You mentioned young guys, Vivion.
Yeah, I'm one of those.
It's like a big go-kart, and I've been racing go-karts for a while now, so it's good, yeah.
What about all these older men around you? Some of them considerably older, twice your age. Is that daunting or not?
A little bit, like, but some of them race against my dad, so I learned all the tricks from him.
The Europa men and boys are working hard this weekend with two races. Race 1 sees a fantastic start from Morgan Dempsey Jr. from the second row, but by lap 3 it was Noel Roddy with Vivion Daly in second and Robert Scott in third place. The young Tyrone driver makes his move on lap 4. And he dominates the race until lap 8 when Morgan Dempsey, Dagg and Noel Roddy clashed, bringing out the red flags to give the Formula 4 graduate Scott his first win.
And the grid for this second race is Dagg, ex-Z-Tech man, on pole position with Leslie right beside him, wily old character. Behind him, Vivion Daly, that's him there. And you'll see there what a good start from pole position Dagg gets. But look at the flyer from Noel Roddy right from that second row, and he's got it on board on Declan.
That's our camera car, all right. That's Noel Roddy from Dundalk, and he's right behind Dagg and chasing out there, looking for his first win in a long time in Formula Opel, and we'll see how he gets on.
Down through that funnel, they are very, very quick indeed, and Dagg is extremely quick, and you can see that poor old Roddy's having a problem at the moment, being climbed on all over by Morgan Dempsey Jr., believe it or not. So look, out to a very, very quick part of the circuit, but Dagg, a very efficient Z-Tech racer, down there on the brakes into this Tarzan, turns it in nicely, lets the car out to the black and white, and in the background that's the battle for second, third and fourth.
Dagg is the current Formula Ford Z-Tech champion, and he's graduating to this wings class. He certainly adapted to it very quickly, leading confidently from pole position, and he'll certainly be looking forward to his first win today, perhaps.
See the way you get down the inside there, Buckley having a dive down the inside, but Derek and Daly, wily old driver, lets him in and lets him out. They're coming into paddock now, Declan, a quick one.
That's certainly a spectacular one. The RT2000s like to run over that curb, but the Formula Opels, they can bend rockers if they can only go out there the odd time if they really need to. We see Vivion Daly's right up behind Morgan Dempsey Jr. and they're chasing Noel Roddy. Dagg looks to have a bit of an advantage, but not much of one at this stage.
No, but this is super to see, as they see the wings and slicks with the second, third and fourth really clashing together as the Austrian Derek and Daly, still Buckley having a tussle there, locking wheels through the first turn. Used to be Toyota, tight one. We're on board now with Roddy as they go out to the quickest part of the circuit, the parabolic. You're on the brakes, down a gear, just clip that curb, a little bit of oversteers, he turns it in, and through there he seems to be able to catch it. It's hard to tell from the onboard, but Dagg at the moment, his mirrors are not full of Noel, but I'd say Noel's mirrors are all full of Morgan Dempsey Jr.
Noel Roddy's one of our most committed racers out there. We did see him going down the inside. He's defending against Morgan Dempsey Jr. Meanwhile, Morgan has to keep an eye on his mirrors as he's got the black visor of Vivion Daly right in his mirrors, nudging him there just as they go around the carousel. There's plenty of hectic action out there.
Coming through that, when you get a wake-up call from Vivion about 3 times a lap, but shouldn't bother that man. But all this time, you see, our Noel is going to get away from him, but Morgan just wants to pull that gap. Now he's on the tail, good man on the brakes, up the inside, and when you do that, you lose a bit of momentum. Number 12 there, that's Leslie Wright, just getting through. Remember, he was on the front row, but lost out.
Leslie's trying to recover, and Noel Roddy himself is trying to hang on in there in second place. He's been monstering the curbs. He's been showing a little bit of daylight there to Morgan, and he's been so tempted, but he has to really keep an eye on what's happening behind him.
As Declan said, the wings and the slicks, but the wings all important. So you leave the door open, stick your nose in, someone comes across with his back wheel and taps your front wing. Now your car won't handle him. Meanwhile, out the front, it's still Dagg, flying away, but not really pulling that big advantage. We're still in a situation where the real battle is for second, third and fourth, and that is Roddy from Morgan Dempsey Jr. from Vivion Daly. And there they are, the three of them locked in battle.
Paul Dagg looks in good shape here as Leslie Wright leads the battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, and Morgan Dempsey Jr. he's crawling all over the curbs, getting the back to step out a little bit, using the tyres and using his suspension to its fullest effect, as we see Robert Scott making a move up through the field. He's been a little bit quiet in this race. The first round winner here today, he's languishing back in midfield in this race, which just shows the competitiveness of Formula Europa 2000 this season.
Yeah, he's one of the new young chargers, along with young Dempsey, the 6-year-old, and Vivo putting the wheel up there on the curb. Not a lot of room. Didn't really close the door, Morgan, but didn't really open it either from. But you can see that the battle's all the way down the field. I was saying the young 16-year-old not featuring as well in this race as the previous, but he's learning his craft. Meanwhile, out they go through that very quick funnel again, down into the braking area for the first hairpin. Again, it's Daly, the tail out. Look at the lead Dagg has again. As long as these three fall over each other, I think Dagg is sitting pretty.
He knows how to win a race. He's the current Formula Ford champion. He'll be expecting to just sort of confidently stroke through the laps and go for that win. There's no reason why not at this stage.
And the way these lads, in fairness, they're not doing anything wrong. They've got to protect their places. You can see Roddy there just holding it into the first tires, and Dempsey flicking it through. Daly in the background hoping some. That's Scott at the moment just being picked out there by number 9.
Keith Dempsey, he's certainly making moves. A 16-year-old racer, can you believe it? And he's certainly not intimidated by some of these slightly older racers. Not that Robert Scott is all that old.
No, they're two of the young chargers, but great to see young guys out there. Meanwhile, up front, the oldies but goldies, but driving like young'uns. Dagg gone through there. I'm not saying ignore him, but he seems to have it in the bag. But watch Dempsey looking for that inside line. It's the brave man that does that when you've Vivion Daly sitting on your tail. Now we're back on board with Noel. Is he catching him down the straight again with the onboard? It seems under braking. You'd think he's right on his gearbox, locking the wheel, but when they pull out of it, it's all back to square one.
He might not be gaining too much, but he's not losing out either, and he's the one that Noel is the one that doesn't have the clean air. Paul Dagg has a free shot at the track. He can take whatever line he wants. Noel has to keep a weather eye in his mirrors, and yet he's still managing to cling on. If Paul makes any sort of a mistake, Noel is there to pounce.
Yeah, out in that clean air, as you say, he can go wide, he can take the perfect line, just clip his curb, doesn't have to defend. The odd look in the mirror. The boys are far enough back that he can not relax, but he can take it and pick it. Now watch the way Roddy is doing this all together. He's there too. Dagg has made a mistake. Dagg at the parabolica must have made a mistake. The car, or maybe he's a soft one right. Looks like he's a right-hand back puncture. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like the wheel is down and the boys are all over.
Dagg slows. Noel doesn't need a second invitation. The two touched as they went inside of the carousel, and Morgan went the other side. They're all over the place, but the way it's established now is that Noel Roddy has got ahead. Vivion Daly's behind him. Morgan is there ready to pounce in third place, and Paul Dagg seems to be dropping back.
Maybe I'm wrong. I just looked at the car, wanted to step out to the right. Something wrong with the right-hand back of the car. It's all changed up front, and as you just said, sitting there, Noel was ready to pounce. Now he's got Vivion, the last of the great late breakers, so it's through there, that tight hairpin. Down through the funnel, the quickest part. Noel should be able to get the head down, pull a few car lengths. Unfortunately, Derek M. Daly out there being looked at, but I think his race is over. In the pit, Dagg there making his way around very slowly indeed, but there is the battle for the lead at the moment. Third place man dropping slightly back, Morgan Dempsey Jr., but maybe having a breather to have another run.
Noel Roddy has the head down all right, but if it goes down any further, he won't be able to see out of the car. He's not the tallest guy in the world, and Vivion's all over his mirrors, right with him. Morgan's back with him, and then muscling inside, outside. Vivion's taken every other line he can try to get by Noel.
The two of them fighting together, you can just see that those two car lengths that Dempsey was behind just suddenly close it up. They're coming out now through this long right-hander out onto this short, what I would call a back straight, into this quick corner we keep telling you about, and you throw it in there at the curb, and the three of them do throw it in. Watch the third place man, he's using the quickest line. Dempsey moves out there, banging wheels with the leader, got a slightly sideways. You don't do that with Morgan Dempsey Jr. because he's down the inside.
Did Vivion touch off Noel there? I think he might just have touched with his left front, and he went sideways. That was the only invitation that Morgan needed, and he's now right down the outside with Noel Roddy. He's about to make hay as much as he can.
You can see that he left it wide there, going around the outside, but again he just snatches his back from Vivion. But Dempsey Jr. at the moment on a charge. Don't tell me he's going to have a look around the outside. There they go, we're on board with him. Oh, and he does it, comes back around. I'm not sure whether they touched. It was a brave man. We've seen the great. Again, you see, I think the car is just beginning to launch itself. Either way, two of them out, and who inherits it?
Well, it's a red flag. Vivion managed to sneak down the inside and avoid all of that. But on lap count back, it's actually Noel Roddy that gets his first Formula Europa win in 9 years for the Irish Racing Cars team. The lucky Belfast Motorsport Festival sticker must have brought him luck.
Dagg in the new lightweight Europa, and it's obviously working. You're in pole position.
Yeah, that's right, Plum. It's 8th one in a row, so we're really flying. I'm delighted with the way the car's going.
Of course, alongside you in the front row, it's Keith from the same team. Is that going to cause problems?
Hopefully not. I had a good enough qualifying session today, so hopefully I can improve a position for the race.
Now, this is always what happens in Formula 1. Each teammate fights each other.
Yeah, well, we might have a good battle between the two of us.
Now the 5-second board is shown.
Paul Dagg there on pole position, the youngster, the new superstar in second place, and what a great start from Dagg. But you can see the way they stagger that grid. Pole position is all important, but young Dempsey really keeping the door closed on another Dempsey. That's Morgan Dempsey Jr. there, number 27, just side by side as they head out into the quickest part of this funnel.
Bit of a scuffle there between Tim Buckley and Noel Roddy. Tim Buckley shoveling the Dundalk man off the circuit. We're in car with Robert Scott. He's following that group. He's paring down on the three Cliff Dempsey racing cars. That's Morgan Dempsey in third place of those. Keith, of course, Cliff's son, is in second place, and he's homing in on Paul Dagg, our leader.
Dagg at the moment in a nice position, coming in, turning in this double apex, I call it. They call it Tarzan 1, Tarzan 2, but it's so tight in between the first and the second that they don't really get time to relax. You turn it in, straighten it up and get it out. But the first three is getting their head down. Dagg, Dempsey isn't giving up, and then Morgan Dempsey Jr. sitting there in the background hoping there's somebody. You can see that young Dempsey turning in that little bit earlier, trying to nibble back on Paul Dagg. But this is definitely a star for the future. But let's not take it away from Paul Dagg. He has served his apprenticeship in the, say, somebody on the grass there.
We're in car with Robert Scott, and we saw exactly what happened to Tim Buckley. He just ran too wide. You can't bring Formula Europa cars out on the grass like that. That's a problem for Tim. I wonder, will he be able to resume?
And there in the background there, the 2FM car carrying number 1, last year's champion Vivion Daly, one of the senior citizens in this class now, having a look down the inside but getting it absolutely slammed on him. Wheel to wheel, a lot of dust there, but as Declan said, a little bumpy on the outside of that corner. I'd be worried about if anything really quick got in, they might dig the nose in, but we may have a problem later on. But let's have a look and see, can Dempsey do anything about these two? That's our leader through second place, third place man, fourth place man, and we're watching for the battle now. Is Dempsey going to get it, or is he not?
A frenetic dice for fifth place. Vivion Daly has a run on Noel Roddy. These two guys know each other of old. He's down the inside, he's made it stick into Tarzan. It's not easy to overtake there. He'll be really pleased with that one.
Yeah, got the slipstream coming out of that very quick right hand. You can see Dempsey throwing it all on the limit there, and it is Dempsey. He's already pulled the car length, but old Noel and Vivi, old sparring partners. I'd say the score at the moment is about 6-all. They go through this left-hander, long parabolic, a short dash, and then out onto the hill, up into what was and still is the last corner here at every circuit of Mondello, the motor fit corner, up into the braking area. You've got to stay right out there, turn it in, clip the inside and get as much power on as quick as you can.
Well, Vivion Daly in fifth place is really working his way up on Robert Scott. He's already eked out quite a margin on Noel Roddy, and as we move ahead to lap 6, we'll see that he's still inching away, trying to close in on, but Robert Scott has Morgan Dempsey Jr. in his sights, so quite a battle concertining up there at the front.
All this time, cool hand Luke, Paul Dagg out the front, doesn't seem to be ruffled at all. Young Dempsey, Keith is really trying. He's trying every angle to pull that half car length, but you can see that Paul Dagg just keeps it lit everywhere, braking nice and early, turning in nice and early, no heroics, and this is what's keeping him in. That's the man on the charge at the moment, Vivion, the abracadabra car. We don't mention that very often because it's hard to get out, but he's had that sponsor with him now for a number of years, before he won the championship and now since he's won it.
Well, we've seen the leader through shot, and that's the fourth place man, Robert Scott, one of the most spectacular racers in Formula Europa. He really lets it slide around the place. He likes to be on the edge of it even, and he's certainly doing that today, giving us great entertainment. But Vivion Daly is going to be liking what he sees. If he sees the car around moving, oh, and there's Scott off course. He just at that paddock hill bend again, he just runs wide and onto the grass, and that's not a good place to be.
You see what I mean? That is there's just one bump in the middle of that grass which I think possibly they're going to have to flatten out. If a car gets off, you're launched. Now it could go left or right, but it could be launched back out into the field right in front of the oncoming traffic. But again, Dempsey sitting there wasn't quite close enough, but this has helped him.
Well, moving ahead now, we see Keith Dempsey is still running in second place. He's still inching away, and that's Henry O'Freely. Retirement, no luck for him this afternoon for Henry. But back with the leaders, it's Morgan has actually got ahead of Keith now. As we see, Robert Scott is being closed in by Vivion Daly. Morgan Jr. is now ahead of Keith Dempsey for second place.
You can see Scott there keeping that door on both sides closed. Little lad up on the roll bar. That's the camera that's taking all the shots. We're showing you what Scott is doing. Remember, he made that mistake. He's under a little pressure now. You can see there Morgan Dempsey through, Scott through. Now, Morgan Dempsey, remember, up into second place. Scott doesn't want to give up this fourth place. Vivion throws it in. Does he lose it? He gets it a little sideways. I think he just got it in a little tight. Put a wheel on the curb. Scott can relax.
Half a spin, he can relax for a minute, but not for too long. He looked like he was right with him, but Keith Dempsey is now, he's not happy about that. He's lost his second place to his cousin Morgan Dempsey Jr., so he's going to be chasing hard to try and get that second spot on the podium.
And our Paul Dagg in the mirrors looks and he says, two Dempseys bouncing off each other. Good luck, boys, because this would keep him so busy. He's pulling about a half a second a lap. The Renson car there of Morgan Jr. always races under 27. The young lad though, 16 years of age. What a performer. The man in front, remember, was the previous Opel champion here a number of years ago. Now he's been chased down by the cousin.
Well, by my reckoning, Keith Dempsey was 7 years old when Morgan Jr. won his first Formula Europa title, the first Formula Europa title in Ireland. And I don't think Morgan Jr. is very old. They're ahead. That's our leader, Paul Dagg. He's the current Formula Ford Z-Tech champion, so real quality opposition out here. And we see that Keith's got ahead again. Wonderful, into second place.
But you can see the gap that Paul has pulled out, sitting there with a 4 or 5 second gap down into that part of double apex, as I would call it. A big dive from young Keith. Our man doesn't want to wreck the third place car, so he moved over and let him through. So he's up into the second place. So it's a Dempsey from an older Dempsey.
Wonderful commitment there from Keith as he comes through paddock bend. He gets it all over the curbs. You can see him looking in his mirrors. He doesn't have to look too much. Look at the road ahead, Keith. That's the place to be looking at.
Out, you see, you get that couple of car lengths here at Mondello. It's very tight, number one. It was called Toyota, it was called Aircel, it was called Telecom. We don't know what it is. Look at Scott now under pressure again from Vivion as they get out onto the very quick part of Selfridge. Through that tunnel is very quick. Down through this long right-hander. This, although it's called the back straight, there's a long left-hander in there. You see it then down a bit of a hill, and if the brave one gets down the inside. But if you leave your braking too late on that inside, you can get around the back because you want to go on. But Scott, driving well, likes to drive with the tail out a bit, but at the moment, with that man Daly behind him, he's got to play it as cool as possible.
Well, what a battle this is. Vivion Daly, we saw him drop back there a few laps ago, but he's right back on Scott's tail. And Scott runs wide there, and Daly's ready to pounce. He's under the gears much quicker, and he's up inside as they approach Padding Hill Bend. We look at it in car with Scott. There's nothing he can do. He has to see the gap, but he's done it brilliantly because he has a run down the outside of Vivion into the final corner.
This is just what I was saying. You can have a charge down the inside of someone, but you He's still got to get it stopped. So if the man there is brave enough, walking the anchors a little bit early, let him on out, and then you've got the momentum to pick it up. Now he's got the inside line here for this tight hairpin. Daly, I've seen him try and drive around the outside. He's trying to do it there by coming around the back, getting it side by side, but a brave man to go down. This is the yellow flag area, by the way. That's where they're not having a run with each other. You're not allowed park or pass park. I should say pass going through there. A little bit hairy, a little bit dangerous. Now let's see, does he try it again? In under braking down here. That time Scott moved a little out. Have to give him room.
No time for Scott to relax. He's still got his mirrors full of Vivion Daly. He's right with him on the exit of Tarzan Curve. How does he not damage his front wings as they approach on the way into the S's? Vivion's got to run down the inside. A brilliantly executed manoeuvre under braking there, and there was nothing Robert could do about that. He's fought a valiant battle to try and keep the current Formula Europa champion behind him, but it looks as if Vivion's made it stick this time.
Just went a little wide there at the entrance and just couldn't get that slingshot in. So we've a new man in fourth place now. For how long we don't know, because I don't think Scott's given up yet. But Vivo, get the head down now and try and pull a car length or two away. Well, that won't help. Sticking a wheel on the grass, he's already lost another car length. This will give Vivion a chance now to move right out to the left and have a quick run.
Moving ahead to the final lap, there's our leader, Paul Dagg. He's had a serene coast to victory this afternoon. He's just had it all his own way. He's really going well in this championship now, and he's looking to match the Formula Europa Championship with the Formula Ford Zetec one that he's got. That's another victory, the second of this weekend. A wonderful performance by the man from Drogheda.
Yeah, we got young Dempsey in second place and Morgan Jr. in third.
Long, hard race, very hot in the car today, but I'm really delighted to come away with the second win of the weekend, and it's been just a magical weekend from start to finish.
Welcome to the Leinster Trophy meeting, and what a trophy it is. Just listen to this list of names: Mike Hawthorne, John Watson, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, all previous winners. So is it any wonder that today's drivers want to add their name to this historic prize?
Very big day for me. It's my first championship season in a single seater car, so hopefully I can wrap up the championship today.
Unfortunately, the English spec cars have new rubber today and a bit more power, so really it would have to be very wet, or something would have to happen. Justin probably would be the quickest of them. If any of the Irish lads will have a chance, which is a shame, but there you go. It won't stop us trying to get it anyway.
If Paul Dagg wins and gets all the fastest lap and the points for fastest lap and pole position, I just have to come second and I get the title.
It is a spectacular trophy, and I think any driver would love to win something like that. It's actually solid silver, so it's a real one, you know.
You would be the youngest man ever to win a major championship in this country.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more than it really is. I've been around motor racing all my life, so it's kind of in my blood. So.
Well, on that pole position it is Paul Dagg. He's bumped Sherwood off. He's down in second place. A staggered grid, as you can see in the Europas. We're waiting the change, and a good start there from Dagg on that pole position. Somebody going slowly there. Could that be that our man Declan Quigley? He's down in the good position in ninth. A lot of dust there and a lot of blue smoke. Somebody locking up the backwards, but a great start from Dagg.
And a very interesting situation, because Dagg, a former Formula Ford champion, leading at the moment, leading the current British champion Sherwood. And we're on board with Noel Roddy, who's down in about 8th or 9th place at the moment as we head out into the country for the first time.
And just getting on the inside there of Declan Quigley, who I said out-qualified Noel in the morning session. But look at this, Dagg getting the head down already. He's coming down into the double apex. He should know his way around here, but in fairness, Sherwood has also learned the way. He's really putting on the power. This is only the start of it. They'll all have to sit down, nestle down, let the tires really get warm. Roddy comes in on the way out. You can see Tarzan 2 on the new extended circuit up over the brow. He'll be heading for a very tight right-left, turning in now, just clipping the car. Beautiful. Gets it a little unsteady there. Maybe hit it a bit too hard. And again, just clipping that car too hard as they make their way up the hill to Motorfit corner.
And we can just see from those onboard shots how hard work it is in a Formula Europa. Just locking up there. Number 10 going through our frame.
Henry O'Friel, the doctor out there, having his second season in the Europa Cup, but really good. A lot of oldies but goldies out there, and a lot of young ones. That young Dempsey fella, just 17 years of age, and again getting outbreak there going into the first corner. Not like Noel Roddy, it's a left-hander through there, and they're on the way out into Ambassador in the country, but that is the man. Oh, gets it a little sideways. That's not going to do his lead much good.
Two fascinating situations here, and a very, very interesting situation for the Cliff Dempsey team, because both their drivers can win the championship. There's the man who has to win this race to be in with a chance, and young Keith Dempsey back in third place at the moment with his cousin right on his tail, the very first Formula Europa champion here in Ireland, that is Morgan Dempsey Jr. But it's Sherwood in second place, and he really is a danger man. He's the British champion, as we said. He's on new tires. They have a slightly up-spec'd engine, and he really has to go for it.
Yeah, now, if he can get ahead of Paul Dagg, I think young Dempsey, we were taking him out to dinner tonight, and he's all over the back of him having a look at the inside. If you don't get away with that manoeuvre, you actually lose a couple of car lengths, and you can see that shows what happened at the moment. In fairness to Dagg, one little mistake down at Ambassador, but since then, yellow flag out, that means Sherwood can do nothing about it. He's got to let him all the way through till they get a green flag, having a look at the inside, but we cannot pass. You can hear the scream of the tires. He's coming in as late as he can on the rigs, but Dagg should know this circuit that little bit better.
Sherwood is really tucked in now. He's in a real good chance, and Morgan Dempsey Jr. is giving the family a bit to worry about there too. Sherwood goes on the outside, the long way round, but Dagg has that well covered.
Yeah, making the car just a little bit wide. Doesn't give them a lot of room. They're just touched there. They're out into the country again. We're on lap 5, but you can see that Sherwood's car just has the legs of Dagg, and that's the mistake he didn't want to make. Coming through that paddock bend, very quick indeed, gets it out on the grass, and he's going to have to pull all that distance. And look up there, that's those magic couple of car lengths. There's Morgan Dempsey Jr., the second of those cars, really putting pressure. You can see the water on the inside of that corner, just to show you how wet it was here in Mondello later on. That's O'Friel at the moment, and number 69 there, which is Lance Robinson, really giving him a run.
Robinson coming right up through the field, trying to dive down the inside there, but not getting a gap. This is the famous first turn at Mondello, which has seen an awful lot of incident over the years. We're now going out into the countryside. We're on the full international circuit here today. It's a lot of work, it's a long way round, and it's not used that often, so really it's a fairly even pitch for both the visitors and the locals.
Robinson there carrying Croft, that's a famous circuit in the UK. That's Morgan Dempsey Jr. You can see that he hasn't given up for that third place. He wants to get by Keith. In fact, it's not Keith he wants to get by. He wants to get by Sherwood, and he wants to get by. He wants his name in that trophy as well. But these two, the leaders, pulling out a gap, and at the moment, young Keith settling in, couple of car lengths, but don't underestimate this man in the Renson car. He'll be biding his time. It's a long race, clipping the curb there. He'll pull back, and you can see the gap all the way through. And again, Robson just got by Henry O'Friel there, and fair dues, he's the visitor. Morgan Dempsey Jr. on lap 8.
And still this battle goes on for, third place at the moment, and for first place. 72, there's Declan Quigley, our fellow commentator very often, who does a one-off drive in Formula Opel, or Formula Europa, and just at the moment, he'd maybe rather forget it.
We move on to lap 13, and you can see the battle for that third place is closing up. Young Keith now, very brave indeed, going nice and wide, leaving the door open for Morgan. He's judged it perfectly. He'll be the quicker man through it, and Morgan just wasn't close enough.
And let's just remind you, this man Keith Dempsey, he's only just turned 17. It's quite remarkable. He's in his first season out of karts into single-seaters, proper motor racing, wings and slicks, and he's taking it to it like a duck to water. It's really tremendous.
Tremendous to see somebody this young, and they say that is the only way if you want to succeed in motorsport. All the guys on the continent and in England, they all come out of karts, they get straight into something like, whether it's either Renault or or the Formula Opel, but he is definitely the start of the future. But the man behind him, who's his cousin, a lot more years on him, but a lot more experience at the moment, doesn't seem to be able to do anything about it. But he is biding his time, not braking too late, trying to get the power down, coming through. They're back out through Paddock Bend, up the hill to Motorfit. Look at that, right out to the edge, not afraid to leave that door wide open and get as much power down the straight as possible.
And it has to be said that Morgan Dempsey Jr., he was the man that really looked like on a rocket ship to the stars a number of years ago, but just didn't have the finance to go on, and consequently he gets slightly blunted. Here's the young man in front of him now, who really has got the ambition and is just hoping to get the breaks at the end of this year, go to England and continue his racing career from this very, very great starting ground.
Wait up on the curb there for Morgan Dempsey Jr. Keith, nice and wide, down at Ambassador, just flicks it up out of second gear, up into third, heading for what was the old S's. And here we go, this man Robson from Croft again, just got it a little wrong there, came in a little late, doesn't really know that bomb hole all that well, but you can see that he hasn't given up, and it's great to see the visitors really coming through and trying it again, coming down to the S's there, 99. Which is Tim Buckley. Tim has graduated up from Formula Ford and he is holding off, which I'm sure much more experienced man for the old wings and slicks. Meanwhile, back with the race and the battle for third place, diving into Tarzan again, and that gap hasn't come down. Dempsey, the younger of the two, really holding on again. Here we see Buckley on the inside, just overshooting, getting the tail out. Had a chance to come back up there, the man from Durham, but didn't make it. These two having a super dice.
And fairness to Buckley, this is one of his finest drives to date. He really has come up, as Brian said, into this formula, and he's withholding a lot of pressure, just took that spot back again and is really fighting for it. And these cars, big handful, big slides as you see them coming back now into Paddock Bend, one of the fastest and the trickiest corners in the circuit. You really don't want to go off on the outside there. And Durham now, look at his seats, having a real look on the inside there, number 69.
Lance Robson from County Durham, getting it nice and tight, coming out down the straight. Will he try a dive down the inside? No, he's going to try the long way around. Buckley will just brake nice and early, make the car a little wide. Robson trying to have a look at the back, but he has it well and true. There's something wrong there. He looks as if he's missed a gear. He seems to have lost drive completely. Meanwhile, all the rest of the grid, two abreast. He's lucky to get out of there that quick.
It's very unfortunate. He was having a great drive. Here's another interesting dice happening here. The doctor who is withholding off is that Labasso, I think, just behind him in the old-shaped Formula Opel. That's an interesting car there in amongst them. Meanwhile, we're back with the championship battle. This is the battle for third. And young Keith, it's been the longest race of his life, the greatest pressure, and the pressure is all coming from within the family.
Yeah, why not? Had it out there. Still, the gap hasn't decreased, but then when you do get right underneath the toe, you don't need it. Someone going slow up the hill there. Let's hope it doesn't interfere with this dice. But again, looking at that inside, but how brave he does. Leaves it open. Morgan not quite close enough to do it. Dempsey Jr. goes by. And again, on that straight, because of diving up the inside, he's pulled a couple of balls, locking a right-hand front wheel, a little puff of smoke there, as out he goes now through this very fast left-hander, clipping the curb, letting it run all the way out. And these two definitely does, and they're just coming up to back marker number 60 there, that is, as they go down into one of the quickest parts of the circuit still.
Well, luckily got out of the way not to interfere with the championship battle. Of course, out front we've still got Paul Dagg, Justin Sherwood battling away with him. We're on the last lap, and here's the leader.
This is the leader, Paul Dagg, still holding off Sherwood. Sherwood out on the curbs there in Tarzan 2. Sponsored by Dad, Fred Sherwood, coming up to the S's. A flick in there by Dagg. Second part through. Oh, very quick indeed. No mistake that time. Down the gear. Just tucks it left now. The short back straight as they're heading straight for the back of the paddock into the quickest left-hander on the circuit. Now Paddock then. Through he goes. Sherwood made a mistake the last time. Not this time. But he's enough of a lead, Dagg. I think he has it in the bag. He's locking that right front wheel, but it's not over till the flag, and the flag is getting very close.
And it looks like he's going to join 3 world champions in that Leinster Trophy. He's absolutely delighted. He makes it. So Dagg goes on to a considerable roll of honour. And there's the situation. Keith Dempsey getting that very vital third place. And that's going to mean that he goes into the record and books himself as he comes down the hill to take the checkered flag. He is champion.
I think the Leinster Trophy, such a prestigious prize, really is a very, very good consolation prize, if you could even call it that. I think it's probably, to me, it probably means more than even the championship. The championship's really good for Keith going to the UK, and he, you know, he deserves it.
It's almost the perfect result for the Cliff Dempsey team. Paul wins the Leinster Trophy, and Cliff's son Keith becomes Ireland's youngest champion.